noticed that we went out to a compensation study, but you were like me in that field. So I'm glad you have a perception of yourself that you should be paid more.
I'm just saying.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
We have everybody here.
That's yours.
The mountains of the Andes.
Welcome to the Centerville City Council meeting of September 3rd, 2019. We just finished a work session where we discussed a couple issues related to the city. And so now we've moved into City Council. We welcome all those guests that are here with us, wherever you may be from. I know we have some religious, we have some political, we have some students, we have some of our city staff here and others, so welcome everyone. So we can make sure we can conduct business tonight. Let's start with the roll call, starting on my far left with Councilwoman Meekum.
Meekum present.
McEwen here.
Ivy here.
Ian's here.
Fillmore present.
Thank you. Let it be noted for the record that all 5 of our city council people are present. We'll start with a prayer or thought. We have invited Pastor Pankratz from the Bridge Community Church here within Centerville to do that for us. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to come. I want to just thank you guys for just your advocacy for mental health issues. Appreciate just the work that you've done with that. So thanks for that. But let's pray. Would you guys bow with me in prayer? Father in heaven, we are truly blessed to live in such a beautiful place. God, we're grateful for that. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to work, a great place to raise a family. And so we just give you thanks for just a beautiful place, God. We're grateful, Lord, that the fires that we had just recently did not claim any lives. We're just thankful for that, and we are incredibly grateful for those men and women who worked really hard to make sure that was the case. Thank you for all of that work that was done. Lord, I want to lift up our council members today, and we know that they have a lot on their agenda along with their lives that they live. They serve our city, and we're grateful for the work that they do, and there's some decisions are easy and some decisions are very difficult, God, I pray that you would give them the wisdom that they need, God, the passion and the love for the city that they need, Lord, the care for the community that they need, that they would do their job just with excellence, Lord. So we just pray for that wisdom they need in those times where they're not sure what to do, God, and pray that you would give them the guidance and the light that they need, and that we would be all blessed because of their work. So we're grateful for them today. Just lift them up to you in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for the prayers for what happened with the fires recently. Thank you for your kind words with what we're attempting to do with mental illness. That's a big problem throughout our communities. And he has a wonderful facility on the west side of town. I went to his Good Friday their Good Friday services, the Bridge Community Church, and it was wonderful. They had station to station set up, and it was a pleasure to be there. And I've told him I need to come visit him again, so thank you for being here, and thanks for all you do in our community as well. Let's all stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're now at the open session part of our meeting, and this is where anyone that's in attendance is welcome to come up to either one of these microphones and introduce themselves and where they're from, and to share with us anything that may be on their mind. So I now open that open session.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Rhonda Perks. I'm here representing Congressman Chris Stewart tonight. The Congressman texted me today and asked me to come and express that he has been thinking of Centerville and Bountiful this past weekend as you've dealt with fires and really grave things that could have gone much, much worse. And to thank all of the community members that, you know, told one another what was happening. We were following Centerville City on Twitter. We noted that we think there was a special city council meeting called, and that Centerville was really taking care of their own and taking care of each other. And the congressman really, really appreciated that and wanted you to know that he's been thinking of you. He was out of town today, but asked me to come and express thanks to Metro Fire and all of the first responders as well. And I want you to know that we had just several weeks ago, not really very long ago, we had a visit in our office here in Utah from FEMA, and they said, well, you know, we come to Utah, but Utah is really the poster child for emergency preparedness. And, you know, everywhere we go in the entire United States, we ask people to model things after how you do it here in Utah. So that's just a little tidbit of something that we've heard recently. And then I also wanted to mention while I'm here that several months ago, maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago, I was briefed by Mayor Wilkinson on the Centerville Cares efforts that you have done, and I was able to go online and watch the really professional video that you have put on YouTube, and we were just so impressed and felt, you know, just so much goodness coming from that. There were a lot of individuals in that video message that we know and love, people that I work with, and we thought that was just so helpful. And, you know, I think when Congressman Stewart first came into Congress and, you know, began working on several issues and has become heavily involved with intelligence work and national security work, I think that mental health was not really something that was really on his radar when he first went into Congress. And now, you know, that has become one of the most important things that he has worked on in Congress. And many of you will know that his bill, the 3-digit hotline bill, we've been working on it for 3 years. It's going to come into fruition in the next year. That's been signed by the president. We have the number, which is going to be 988. And that is going to be nationwide, and it's going to take about a year to get into effect. I mean, we would love to be able to go poof, it's done. But there are some rural areas that are going to have to, you know, have a little bit of coding happen. But for the most part, it is not going to be a real difficult challenge because we've got 911 things in place, and we've already got suicide call centers in place in a lot of places. So there are a few little snags that we're going to have to work out with state buy-in and a little bit of state funding. But for the most part, it's going to be a pretty smooth transition to that 3-digit suicide hotline number. So I wanted to thank Centerville for really kind of leading the way in recognizing the mental health crisis of suicide, and it affects veterans a lot, which is also, you know, really near and dear to the congressman's heart. So we're right there with you, and really appreciate the work that you've done. But particularly these last few days, we've been thinking a lot about Centerville and Bountiful and Davis County. So thank you so much. Thanks for letting me come.
Can I ask you a question, Rhonda?
You bet.
So on Friday when that was all happening, I got a text from Matt Anderson at Senator Romney's office. And one of the Bountiful councilwomen was also working with someone from his office.
Okay.
On FMAG funds, and supposedly they went through. Do you have any information on that?
So
and
I
what
don't.
happened
However, the congressman did mention to me today that he was going to try and make some phone calls to some mayors on Thursday. So you may be getting a call, and you may be able to ask him. You were one of the ones he mentioned that he was going to try and call on Thursday. So if you see a number come up from a restricted number, answer it. and you can ask him. I don't have the information, but I can ask on that. I can make a call to DC tomorrow and see.
Supposedly it came through from what we heard.
Any information.
But I just wanted to know if you guys were included in the loop on that. So, Brad, were you going to say something?
I was just say it was approved
Yeah.
that evening.
Oh, you have it, okay. So, and I wasn't in the office on Friday, and I was out doing outreach events all day today too. So I haven't been into the office since then to really, get a briefing on that. But it sounds like I'll double check and ask on that tomorrow as well. So, okay.
That
Thank
was
you.
a specific question, but in generalities, thank you for all you do as well too. I know that when I came into office that Rhonda was one of the first people that contacted me and was set up an appointment with, allowed me to meet with her and a couple others in the office and the congressman, and that he showed great concern for our city. And so thank you for all you're doing as well too, and all the kind words that you said.
Yeah.
So,
You guys are
any
doing
other questions for Rhonda while
fantastic
you
work.
have her?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, open session still going on. If there's any others that want to come forward for the open session. If not, we'll move from the open session and we'll go to the business of the meeting. And item number 1 is the summary action calendar. And these are 2 items: Streets Department fleet replacement purchase and Water Department standby generator purchase. And so we have representatives here. I guess if you want to ask any question. If not, then I will look for a motion to approve the summary action calendar.
So moved.
So we have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Don't we have to do a roll call when it's that much money?
Roll call?
Yes.
Oh, summary action, sometimes I don't do roll calls, but I'll do a roll call.
I think Lisa
Couple
probably.
$100,000.
I usually go anything over 50,000.
He asked
I'm not
Lisa
for
last
it.
time, and she said no. I was surprised.
I was too, so that's what I was going
Either
off
way.
of, but, we'll
Vacation brain.
we'll pretend Lisa's, the attorney's here, so let's do a roll call.
Aye.
Councilman Deacon.
Aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item number 2. Randy, thanks. Were you here for that? Yep. Okay, thanks for coming, appreciate it. All right. Item number 2 is change order for Island View Park renovation, Phase 2
Hey,
additions.
Randy, before you take off, I do have one question, but it's not going to come up until we talk about fire updates. Maybe could you just, real quickly?
Let's get him while he's here.
Yeah.
He's leaving.
There was some concern about the pressure available on the Bountiful side, up on the hillside around 9th East, being below 1,500 gallons per minute flow. What were we prepared for on our side?
That's a great question, because most water systems are not required to have about 1,000 gallons per minute for residential connections. And we are very lax when it comes to that along 7th East. We do have a project that needs to be installed along there and upgraded the system. That cul-de-sac they were pulling from, or could have pulled from, we probably couldn't get more than 1,500 gallons a minute out of that. The pressure's very low. We did look also at the pressures that Bountiful have in connection. If we were to tie over onto their system, they have more pressure. We couldn't give them any more volume. In fact, they called us and asked if we could tie onto their system. And our system, as it works its way down throughout the city, theirs is actually more pressure, maybe no more volume, but more pressure. They would actually bleed into us rather than us be able to push into them. We also walked the fire today looking at it, and we're considering trying to see if we can't get a grant maybe to install some stuff into our debris basin to try to, if we do have a flow, we can put it back into the canyon rather than, Kevin and I had talked with you earlier last year about that. And we'd like to see if we can get a grant to do that. It's not as bad as we thought it was from the standpoint the fire went over very quickly, and a lot of the root systems are still there. But still, I think we ought to look at that. And like we say, we could speed up doing 7th East, but 7th East does need to be upsized. It's a very small line. It meets today's regulations, but it needs to be changed.
Okay, well, I thank you for answering that question before you took off, because that was one of the comments I definitely wanted to address. What was at the briefing at 8 in the morning relative to pressure and what we had available, because I didn't know.
Yeah, we've only got about 56 pounds pressure, but the problem of it is the line size is fairly small. And so we'd need to upsize the line along 7th East. And that's part of what we're doing on the Wishbone right now, is increasing the line that size down that street. But 7th East does need to be replaced. And
Are you
it's on,
look-
it's on
you
our
look-
master plan.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, I'd say it's on our master plan. It's a matter of when we do it.
Are you looking at state, federal grant money on that? What is it?
Yes, it'll be a federal grant.
Perfect. I was hoping Rhonda could hear that. She'll help.
Down south, they got grants for the same purpose. They had some floods down in Santa Quin, and they got some grants. And we talked with Hiram Alba last fall, and Hiram thinks that we can get a grant. And now with the fire, I think we're even more prone to be able to get that grant.
Well, if I'd been able to get better footage from my cameras, the three of us stood there at 3 in the morning watching 100-foot plumes of fire come off the hillside,
Yeah.
going, if this goes below Fire Brick Road, how are we stopping this?
Yep.
And I didn't think I had a reasonable answer at that point.
Yeah, I think most systems would have a hard time. People don't understand that much fire, it takes a lot of water trying to fight it. And we do not have adequate pressure or volume, and that's something we want to consider. And not just the north end, but even the south end, but the north end. We need to,
Understood. You're confirming some of what I was concerned
Yeah.
about. But
Yeah, I think we need to-
looking at it, there was no way we were going to shut that down.
yeah,
if
we
was
need
that
to
bad.
address this maybe in a later council meeting, so.
Is there a way that you could tap into Weber Water to do some of that?
Well, we have Weber Basin water that we could tie into, and we can get 2,000 gallons a minute from them alone. But the volume through the lines going south, the line size is not large enough. The water is there to be had. It's just the line size. You got to remember, many years ago, we only put in 6-inch and 4-inch lines. Now we're required to put 8-inch lines and 10-inch lines. And it's not, but the legislature actually passed laws that we can't require developers or to put in lines larger than 1,500 gallons per minute, not 2,000, 3,000 gallons per minute.
Well,
So-
that becomes a discussion point for when and if the hillside development gets approved. There's no way that I would ever authorize anything that has that small of a diameter. If you can't,
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
no way that would ever work for me. But
Yeah.
that's a totally different
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah, I think it's something we need to address at a later date, looking back and where we should go into the future.
Well, thank you for answering that. Now I know and can speak less stupidly about the intelligent things that happen.
Yeah, I think
Good
people
things
need to
happen.
realize that most cities at their infrastructure right on the fire line do not have enough water to fight a
Nope.
fire.
And we were watching that and very much wondering. So
Yes,
I think we were saved by prayers in a lot of cases.
yes, I think so. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. So Brent, will you add that to other things you and I talked about as far as debriefing?
It's on here, Chief. I mean, Mayor.
Thanks.
Not Chief. I was just texting the Chief.
Brent and I talked earlier today about to get into debriefing on, I came up with 3 or 4 things too that I asked him to write down. That's another one to discuss, so thanks for bringing that up, Councilman.
Yeah, when we have that debrief, there's a couple of items that I observed that would be interesting to make sure we have in there for lessons learned for the city. I think, and we'll talk about it more, but we had an amazing professional response. I mean, seeing that many agencies coordinate in such a short period of time. It was, an air traffic controller couldn't have done any better. That was amazing.
Yeah. Okay, item, pop up, pop down, Bruce. Come on, pop up again. This is item number 2, change order, Island View Park renovations Phase 2.
So we talked last time when we had a change order that you would be bringing back a large change order that would cover all of Phase 2, and that's what this is. There has been a change, though, from the one that was sent out in your packets in pulling together all of our revenue sources and all of our costs and our projected costs in order to stay in the budget. We've eliminated one of the alternates, the pavilion on the top level, and thus the new change order that I gave you all a copy of is 60,000 less than what the one was that was in the in your forwarded packets.
Do you have an extra one for me, please?
Yeah.
This was yours.
Oh, that was mine? Okay.
I have Bruce.
You were already prepared for it. Thank you.
So you'll see, you've got a spreadsheet in front of you with some color, and it's kind of broken down into funding sources at the top. And the numbers that are there are ones that we've confirmed or are sure of. Anywhere where it's a number that we're not sure of, there's a conservative estimate in that. We're confident that these numbers will be this or less. And so this is what staff is recommending at this time, and unless you have any other questions or comments, or we looked hard to see if there was a way to squeeze in the other alternate, and Brant and Jake said no. I was saying, are you sure? And they said, no, sorry, Bruce, there's no way we can get that in there.
I don't have any more money for you. So, Mr. Mayor, what I've asked when I spoke to G. Brown, when we spoke to G. Brown today, what I was looking for to help council understand where we are on this project cost is I want to look at, first of all, what are our revenues coming in? What do we have to work with? And that's what's in front of you there, the $2.977 million. And then the phase one construction bid. So we've already awarded the contract of phase one to BHI. And so you can see that there with it's actually $1,706,537,000. That's what we've awarded to this point. What you can see there is we do have a change order pending coming our way in the future of $17,000. That's not part of this. And that gives you phase one BHI. But then I want to say we're providing some equipment, playground equipment, as well as furnishings, irrigation equipment. And I wanted to break that out separately to, again, give you an idea of what the total cost of this project is. And in the phase one, we're looking at $254,000. And then you have your design fees, your contingency, and that gives you your total budget for phase one of $2,161,263.64, which leaves $816,000 for phase two. So I asked G. Brown Design to do that same model on the next. In BHI, we're looking at total construction costs of $525,000 is what the amount would be if we didn't already approve some change orders to this point. And so what you see in front of you on those phase two construction bids is we've already approved change order number 1 and change order number 2. So what that leaves is that $420,794.18. So that's what we're asking for today is a change order for BHI. Again, that's not the total construction cost of phase two, because again, you have your phase two owner provided items as well as your design fees and your contingency. So what we have in your packet before you was $462,000. We've eliminated the pavilion to stay within our revenues. There's no way that Jake and I feel comfortable. We're already pushing our luck on our RAP tax funding. We have some funding in our savings from last year, and we're using 1 month of revenue of this year's funding to get you that $300,000. But I do still, if you don't know me by now, I want to leave money in there because there's always uh-ohs. And so this is where we feel comfortable at 2.977. So when you make your motion, if you do approve, that we amend that change order to that amount, that $420,794.18. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? And then I will back up and say there will be a possible credit, but it's not going to be much since we switched from tennis to pickleball. We might see a $10,000 credit, but we're not factoring that in until we have hard numbers.
It'll be less than that. It's a difference in retaining wall length, and then there's a section over the gas line where we would plan to do concrete retaining wall, where we're now going to do retaining boulders that the gas company's okay with. And so there's some savings in not having that much retaining wall. But I asked, and they don't have exact numbers, but it'll be less than 10,000 in savings.
And of the two alternates that we had in phase two, there was the pavilion and the walking path, redoing the sidewalk around that area. The pavilion obviously is more costly to do, but I propose that we did the sidewalk replacement. For one, we've already had a claim on that sidewalk from an injury. And two, you can't go back in after the fact to replace that sidewalk without ripping up everything that's already been done. You can replace a pavilion, and we can buy that pavilion. Might need to find another family to donate a pavilion, but
I was just going to say, I wonder if we could get some businesses to go in together, if we were willing to put names or something on it and get the pavilion put back up there.
Sure. So that's what we opted for, is we want to make sure the sidewalk is done. So that's the alternate we
I agree
did
with that.
include in this. So that's what you have before you built. Bruce, I don't know if you have anything else?
No, exactly, yeah, that's the sidewalk, we were hoping that we could replace that sidewalk. It's one of the trouble spots, and something gets used quite a bit at the park. It's a facility that we've heard from people coming to this meeting saying how much they love the walking path at the top of Island View.
So with any change orders comes the question about Project Health right now. Where are we? Are we happy with the progress, the pace?
We're actually a week behind schedule because of the fire. We had planned to do quite a bit of footing and foundation concrete work last Friday, and no one was allowed above 400 East, and so they all took an early holiday weekend. And our BHI says they're going to do everything they can to get caught back up and cut off any time that they can to see if we can get back on schedule. But we're about a week behind schedule right now.
So I do want to emphasize that the change order before you is not in addition to, this is just covering the phase 2. So the change order, the only change order I've seen to this point will be that pending 17,000 that will be above and beyond what we originally anticipated in this project.
No, I just use this as my quick opening to find out where we're at. And tell me the change order. So.
And it's generous, in my opinion, to keep the 100,000 contingency with the 17,000, because then it's increasing the contingency in a sense. So, which is fine, just keep it all cush and safe.
Sure.
That's great, but
That's absolutely correct.
could be viewed that way as well.
I do feel right, because it's not just 100,000, it's actually 117,000 is what's in that contingency, which, again, you should have 10% is standard, and
Sure.
right now we're at 4%
Yeah, exactly.
contingency, so BHI better be on it. No change order.
Further questions? Bruce, did you finish your presentation?
Yeah, unless you have any other questions.
Any further questions for Bruce or Brant before we look at a motion on that?
I would move that we approve change order number PH2 number 3 to Island View Park renovations in the amount of $462,447.58.
It's the 420
Yeah,
on
it's
the
changed
paper.
from what's on the
Oh,
agenda,
you're
sorry.
right, sorry.
So that
Thank you.
number.
$420,794.18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call vote on this, starting with to my right and going to his right, Councilman Ince.
Aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. Did you need to make a disclosure?
Yeah, I was just going to
I
say,
do
Romney,
have-
Lisa's
I do
not
still live
here.
next to the park, by the way. They started pouring concrete
What's left
today.
of it?
And you can make a,
And I can still make an objective decision.
thank you very much.
Is that because construction's starting after 7 a.m.?
You know, I'm already up by then. So.
So you get Lisa not here, and I'll think of these things.
Good job.
Okay. Wow, we're moving on. Okay. We have item number 4, minutes review and acceptance. We have 5 meetings that we are,
Mr.
Did we
Mayor,
skip the?
Wait, we missed.
you
missed.
skipped the big one.
You thought we were really going quick.
This should be quick, right? We've thoroughly covered.
yeah. Okay, so item number 3 is municipal code amendments on the finance director, okay? We had, for the public's information, we had a work session discussing this earlier tonight, and we discussed, that was a follow-up from 2 weeks ago when we kind of tabled this motion to find out more information. So now we are back to it to look to take a vote. We had quite an extensive discussion. So is there, from the work session, any further thoughts anyone had, or can I entertain a motion from somebody?
Well, I made the motion last time, and I'll start out by thanking staff for going to the efforts to provide that additional information. I think it was helpful. Bill, would you agree? Yeah. So I will again move that we approve ordinance number 2019-14, amending various provisions of Chapter 3.02 of the Municipal Code regarding the elimination of Management Services Director, the creation of the Finance Department, and revisions to the titles and duties of the Finance Director. This is ordinance number 2019-14.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second for debate.
We have a motion and a second. It sounds like we may have further discussion or debate. Do we have further discussion or debate?
Well, I thought there'd be more debate than that.
Yeah.
I continue to have concerns about being able to get a person who can really be a financial manager and bring to bear the skills that we need in the compensation range that we're talking about. Now, at the same time, I have significant concerns about the outside contract that we evaluated in the work meeting. But I'm not fully convinced. I'm not convinced either way. I'm in a quandary.
So being from the financial sector like Councilman Ince is, I was talking to him before the meeting, and we both value our profession highly. And we both feel that you may have to pay more, but at the same time, I was saying, we've done the compensation study, this is the range. And we were assured in the work session that we could probably find somebody within that pay range, but we will have a decision in that, and if whether we find someone that we're happy with or not. So this at the time is just improving the ordinance to proceed to that point. So that's what we were discussing this session started.
That's true. One of the difficulties becomes, once we approve the ordinance, we're kind of halfway over the hill, and how do we run things until we get that person in place?
Are we going to change until we have that person in place from how we're running now?
It's a great question. So no, nothing will change. If anything, really the big change is Jake becomes the finance director until a finance director is, and I say until because I'm confident that we'll find someone that we think that is qualified. And then at that time, Jake will then transition to the administrative services director, but his title would actually change finance director at this moment.
But then
Once
that would
approved.
require the council to give advice and consent, and then the mayor would be the one changing his role after that, right?
Correct. So that's where, again, now we'd follow state statute and go through that process as Lisa outlined at our last city council meeting. So nothing will change. It's not going to be, this void where we're looking. It will continue to operate as is. We can call Jake whatever you want if you want to just.
Oh.
Some don't go on nameplates though.
So Jake would still manage all those responsibilities until a finance director is interviewed, hired, and again, appointed or nominated to this board, to this body.
So the only hesitation that comes in for me is just, past performance doesn't dictate future possibilities. But we learned a very valuable lesson as a council as to what the statutory duties of the council are related to a finance director and what the statutory duties of a mayor are related to a council. Because it was I will flatly admit that I was quite floored that this is the one role that the city council in terms of executive management has no say in once they've given their consent. So if things were to go and I'm being as delicate as I can be sideways, and as they did with the audit and subsequent things that we learned as a council. My only hesitation would be, would the mayor act at the same speed that the council wished to have acted during the period we were under? So I'm not asking you for a value judgment, Clark, on something you don't know, but if we go this route, my encouragement would be to be as demanding, as diligent of them as you are in your personal profession. And if it's not working out, it's not working out. What I would really hate to do is give advice and consent, and then we have somebody who's not the right fit, whether that's money or mediocre, and then we try some long rehabilitation. We get 2 years down the road and we're having the same discussion again. So give me some assurance on that one, and I'm all for it. You see where I'm going.
Yeah, obviously in the past, you were able to work as a body to get it taken care of, but individually, yeah, if they weren't performing, I mean, that's my area of my profession, then I would act with quick action.
And that's all I need, frankly, because that to me, the merits of what we're doing now, cost savings relative to what these recapturable costs are that staff has talked about in terms of bond counsel and some of the other things that we've discussed. I can see some merits in where we're trying to go. I'm with Bill. I'm not sure that the dollar amount matches up with the skill set, but if we don't cast the net, we can't find out, and we have to get at least to that point to cast the net. So in terms of being in support of the ordinance, I'm going to be voting for it. It'll be the next stage where we get to the candidate pool and to the advice and consent part.
How are we going to proceed in this search? We're going to proceed on a path similar to what we did for the city manager, or is this going to be delegated basically to the mayor and Brant?
I know how I would like to proceed. I'm not sure what our ordinances say how we can proceed. Do you know, Brant, or is this something we need to find out further?
Well, there's not really, I think you go through the similar interview process as you would, and I assume it would follow the same as your city manager process. Maybe not exactly, because you really messed up on that one, but I'm just kidding. So no, we wouldn't, we could do it in-house, obviously, and we would go everywhere. ICMA, GFOA, what's the other organization? Really, this is a big thing where you'll see Jake and I soliciting calls to people or calling people and saying, hey, we have an opening and we encourage you to apply. Not promising anything, but that's what we would be doing, is doing our best to market it and advertise it and get it everywhere we possibly can. Now, I would also argue you leave it open for at least 4 weeks, but no more than 6. You want to make sure you open it enough so people see it, but not get bored of it, right? They become complacent. So there are strategies to recruiting, for sure.
Lisa and Steve and I went through quite an extensive process, lots of discussion of getting Steve's replacement, which ended up being Brant. We called a lot of different cities. We liked the approach we used. We liked the department heads. We liked then bringing the council in. I don't know if this position you're bringing department heads or not. I don't know, but for all of you, for sure. I mean, I would want it to be a process. I found that worked very well for our city as well too. It worked out like other cities told me it would, that you found a consensus that people were happy with, and that's what I would want to do.
For these types of positions, absolutely, I'd want council involved, particularly in the role that you're in, then it's an appointment that, I mean, you can entrust maybe 2 council members if you so choose, and you can do that route if you trust those 2 to represent, and that way you're not including them all, but either way, it doesn't hurt you to include the entire council. Now, I wouldn't mind including 1 or 2 department heads, because again, they're going to be, the finance director needs to have a relationship with every department.
I think that was the successful piece of the process. I know when we first introduced it to Lisa, hey, this is the approach we'd like to take. She was, what? why would I be involved in the hiring and interviewing of my boss? I said, because he's going to be your boss longer than I'm going to be your council member.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of this, I would love to have the very similar approach to where there is a recognized core competency from staff saying this individual is the right person. And if it turns to, Bill and I have indicated on if the range is not appropriate to the individual we're trying to get, then that's something we look at. But that would have to come with a lot of rave reviews from staff, and then the second round with the council. I'm totally fine in that approach. I think it worked really well, even if we did make a mistake. I'm not sure which mistake we made.
Sure. So no, I love including, when you're talking about department head positions, that matters. And I think even bringing in some staff, such as the ride-along was very helpful to, I was with Mark Marchant, and that was great to have that staff interaction as well as with Bruce, who escorted me around the town. And that stuff matters. So absolutely, the finance director, I would propose we do a similar way.
I thought it was kind of unique at first, but as I made calls, I probably called 7, 8 cities and talked to mayors that had hired and in the last couple of years, and I just got more and more sold on it, and I was quite pleased.
You guys should have trusted me from the beginning. I told you it would work.
There are a number of cities who follow a similar model.
You want me to do
and it's great.
diligence?
No,
You want my assurance that I'll act in this matter as well too. So.
No, and I do. Actually, I'm looking forward to, and I know Bill's trying to figure out how he's going to, if it were a 2-member panel, how he'd be getting out of that with a finance director, but I don't know how that would work.
Oh, I'm not going to try that time.
No, I mean, since the last gave us some, we'll call it reasonable results that we're working on.
I'll take
I'm
reasonable.
Sure we can do the same thing.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, or could we take a vote? All right, everybody know what we're voting on? Does it need to be restated? Okay, I'll start with Councilwoman Fillmore going to the right.
Aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, now minutes review and acceptance. We have 5 meetings. We had a work session 2 weeks ago. We had a council meeting, then we had a special council meeting. Sorry, we're going back a month here because they weren't ready. That's right. Okay, so any questions, discussion, changes to any of those 5 meetings?
Motion to accept the minutes as recorded.
Second.
I had one.
Oh, we got a change.
So push
or a
pause.
question.
On page 2 of the work session from August 6th, 2019, lines 6 and 7, what we directed staff. It says here, staff was directed to remove the trees that are dead, trees that homeowners have requested be removed, and the trees that are causing 1 to 3 inch faults to sidewalks. So we had extensive circular conversation about that last line. And my understanding was that George and I both requested that we get more clarity on a checklist on how those get decided. And that we said, well, let's start with the trees that are dead and trees that homeowners have requested to be removed, and then see how much of the money that takes. And we'd like to see a more clear checklist.
And I agree with your recollection on that.
Okay.
We did go about that, but
Do you remember
boiling
that?
down to the essence, that's where we were.
And so,
That's
How
where
would
we
you like
went
to
out
see
and
that?
we were taking pictures of those pictures, and that's what we're going to bring back to you. We're showing,
Yeah.
here's the pictures we're proposing.
So the minutes
trees
need to
we're
say,
proposing.
staff was directed to remove trees that are dead and trees that homeowners have requested to be removed, period.
Where are you reading? I'm having a hard time finding it.
Page 2.
Page 2 from August 6th work session, lines 6 and 7. And then it just needs to be summarized that we requested, I'm
More
just
information.
blanking the word.
Just
that we would
requested a
use, but-
follow-up conversation, which
Yeah.
we plan on scheduling a follow-up work session to discuss
Yeah,
those others.
yes, so.
I believe that was the directive, Leah. You listened to the minutes, right? Isn't that what you heard? I think that's what you did.
Okay. So
Didn't-
with that change, then I'd feel fine with that.
I hadn't noticed it, but in Tammy causing us to look closer, didn't we specify trees that are dead or nearly dead?
If I recall, we got into some discussion about what nearly dead was.
Yes, that's what it was.
So we ended up with categorically dead.
Dead.
Is-
Dead.
Because if
That's
if
not
you're-
what, that's not what's, I don't think that's what's happening.
And that's what we were concerned about, and I was very concerned when I saw this in the minutes, because I thought, wow, I don't know how we came away not clear on that, but I felt we were pretty
I think they're
clear.
doing nearly dead.
As far as staff
Yeah.
out in the streets now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll follow up and let you know. I'll look into it.
Thank you.
And I don't,
Please do.
yeah. I don't know that I object to that, but
I just think we're safe to start with those first two, and this is what we talked to at length that night.
Right.
I
we-
think maybe before we change the minutes, they'll need to go back and listen, because I thought they said nearly dead.
I can't recall at this point in all
But we
honesty.
should have it on our recording.
But
So-
we're,
Can we
Should
pull
keep
that
those
one for
minutes
now
open
and
then?
review it?
I think we're safe to say dead and requested by homeowners. And then, obviously, we just need to have staff follow up, because we're going to have a further discussion. But if there's work to be done, if there's requested trees and dead trees, why not just start there and schedule the further discussion?
Well, one thing, Councilman Rance, is I don't know if some of those trees have been asked by the homeowners. That's where that qualifier
That's a
comes in.
possibility.
So, but I'll find out for sure and still
that's
report back.
That is a possibility. You're right, I didn't think it that way.
So I'm okay if we want to leave that set of minutes open for clarification by the city recorder. I mean, I'm okay with the amendment as Tammy's got it there too, either way.
I think
'Cause
it's
the
sim-
intent's basically
The
the same.
intent's there. I think that it's simpler to just approve the minutes now, and Grant has it on his to-do list to give us more information, and we'll have further discussion.
So we have two options, I guess. We approve all five, or we leave one not open for approval to go back and listen to the recording. It sounds like we might be leaning towards that one change as specified, or?
So once we approve minutes, if it comes back that it was different, can we change them?
No, it's
No.
done. We need to hold it out if we don't want to pass it.
As staff, we'd ask you to hold it out so we can review it.
Yeah, let's
Yep.
review that one.
So
Then I think we hold out the work session.
when I just restate a new motion then?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion that we approve all minutes as recorded except for August 6, 2019, City Council work session minutes with the instruction to staff to review page 2, lines 6 and 7 against the recording for correct content.
And
Yep.
yeah, just established criteria is the suggestion that I was going to replace that last sentence with, that we would have further discussion about established criteria for the other trees.
So I'll second the motion.
So we have
To
a
leave that
motion
one
and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. Item number 5, Mayor's Report. Let me throw out some dates to you of things you may know already about the fire open houses next week. I sent a email that I'd got to each one of you just before our work session, so those run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the different fire stations. I believe our station is on Wednesday. Then those run from 6 to 8 p.m. Jake sent that to him as well too to get on our website, so if you aren't aware of those, you will see that in the email I sent out to you. There's a Fairy Tale Festival taking place on the 13th and 14th that I receive emails on, being a member of the CPT board. The Nedley Depression class for Centerville Cares starts tomorrow night, 8-week class. They have about 40 people signed up right now and are expecting some more. This is the Depression and Anxiety class. The League of City and Town meetings are next week. I know at least a couple of us have signed up, so we'll come back with reports on that. And then I attended just under 2 weeks ago, briefly, the tree board meeting, and they handed me a draft of something they had come up with. Councilman Ince, have you seen that?
I have not.
Okay, supposedly that, I was there for about 10, 15 minutes while they were going over that. Then I needed to go to another meeting, but supposedly that was supposed to come out of that and come to Planning Commission and Council. I have a copy of that draft. And so hopefully that follows the course it's supposed to follow. And then I would like to take more of an active role in each one of our responsibilities over our committees. We've kind of dropped a little bit our reports from you, so I would like the, especially since our council meetings are not as long as they have been at sometimes in the past, especially with shorter council meetings, start getting reports on these various committees. I try and stay up through reading minutes. I had McKinsey and now I have Leah sending me, you are still sending me all those, right? I see them, and I try and briefly scan through the minutes of what you guys are doing, but there's some great things going on, and I'd love to get reports from each of the committees that you're over as well too. And then look at my notes before I get to the last one. And then the last thing is in regards to the fire. I appreciate all that you were able to do. When I was caught up to the loop, I was involved that day from 11 till a.m. till 9:30. Thank you for all that you were doing during the evening. In my role and what I did, I tried to let you know a little bit of what took place, but I started off by a briefing with Brant and the assistant fire chief and Chief Ross and Councilwoman from Bountiful of what you had all been going through, and got caught up on that. And then during that same meeting, Chief Ross from Bountiful said that the governor was flying in, and he wanted to go meet with some of the firefighters, some of the people that have been helping, the families that lost their homes. And he came in and did that. We went out to the 3 people that lost their homes, and it was quite a moving experience. There was one in talking with those people, as upbeat as they were. And it was interesting, one of those residents I ran into yesterday at Dairy Queen, and they told me some more inspirational stories. But that particular day, one of those residents, while their house was being burnt down and our firefighters were diligently putting the fire out, they were over two doors over, helping a lady get out of her home, you know, and into safety. At the same time, had run down that same individual and alerted people from their local LDS Stake Center through their emergency network. So thinking about themselves, or not thinking about themselves in their time of need, but thinking about others, it was quite inspirational. Ran into this same family yesterday, like I said, at Dairy Queen, and they said that they were able to find his wedding ring, and they were going in with 4 or 5 other people that day to try and find her wedding ring. There's some good reports that he gave me coming out of it, that there might be a local home builder that's willing to rebuild at cost on these homes. There was we talked with them, making sure they contacted their fire insurance provider, and that the area wouldn't be disturbed until they'd had a chance to look at things. And Chief Bassett did a great job at doing that as well too. And then I finished up with that about 5, went and grabbed some dinner, and had the idea that as far as in regards to our residents, I'd go up on the hill up on Island View Drive and the circles up there off of streets and circles off of Island View Drive. And as I drove through there, it was about a little bit after 6. And of course, there was a lot of people out sitting on their lawns, reminiscing what had taken place. And I pulled over and walked over to a gathering of 5 or 6 people and introduced myself. And they pulled out a chair and we had a wonderful discussion. And the next thing I know, between 6:15 and 9:30, we probably had 30 people from the neighborhood that we were just gathered around chatting. They were very positive about the help that they'd received. I asked them about how they found out about it. They had found out about either through our code red or through police officers coming up. I did say to Brant today, and this would be part of one of the debriefing things, is that some of them didn't get the code red messages, and I think because so many people have gone away from home phone numbers, that we need to make a diligent effort to get phone numbers updated in our database. I told all of those 30 to 40 people that I met with that call the city, make sure your phone numbers are updated. Then we talked about how the police officers had come up and how wonderful they were. They had a couple fire trucks on their street at all times. As you know, we had fire agencies from all along the Wasatch Front. I think they had an Ogden and a Morgan fire truck on their street. They were just thrilled with the help that they were able to get. Those flames came a lot closer than I think they didn't realize that they were in danger, I think, some of them, but they were. And like it was said tonight, they did all acknowledge that had the winds not died down, that they probably would have lost a home. So it was very, very, very good meeting with them and having that informal session with them and just kind of getting the feel of some ideas that they had, both how they'd found out and the help they'd gotten. So it was quite a wonderful effort. Trying to think if there's anything I've missed that I could tell you further on that, but.
If I can intercede just a minute or just a bit.
You bet.
The new Code Red system, contrary to our old system, which was probably done inappropriately off of church records, requires the individual homeowner or the individual resident to go into the system and sign their number up. It's the only way. We are not allowed to. We have had a drive on pretty much quarterly for the last year where the flyers that we distributed earlier this year are being pushed. We are encouraging through public announcements to get people to sign up. My recollection, the total number of sign-ups the last time we got a number was about 1,900 through the city. I could be off on that. I don't know if you have something more current than that, Brent. Yeah. So that is the only way, is by individual sign-up.
So that's good to know. So what we need to do, we need to make an effort to make sure everybody knows that.
It has been in the newsletter on.
But this is a chance to really get them to listen.
This will get maybe people's attention, and so we probably ought to put it in the next newsletter. You're right.
Well, and we can't use those church lists, but I think there are, contacts within the church system where people would be willing to contact one-on-one within their church congregation.
Hopefully it has been done throughout the city. We have asked that it be done. We don't have the ability to go to each congregation and do it.
Bill, on the new system, do we have a total number of signups and what addresses are covered, or?
About 1,900 is my
1,900, okay, so we're way behind then.
Yeah.
Way behind.
Bill, another question that I had is with cell phones nowadays, I know that I have mine on Do Not Disturb in the nighttime hours, but if someone calls through twice in a row, then it will ring. And I wonder if the code red system is capable of doing that.
Question that has not come up, and I don't know.
Okay.
I can ask, I will,
Please
but
do.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
I would say of those 30 people, I mean, we weren't all together all at the same time. It was throughout the 3 hours up there, but I would say a good portion of them did get that call. And so they were very grateful for it. Some may have got it and not answered their phone, or their phone was maybe on do not disturb or something, but unfortunately they had neighbors pound on their door, or the police going out. But those that we did, everyone we reached by code red was very grateful, you know, and that they thought it was wonderful that we could pinpoint just a section of the city like that, you know, to let them know. I think I sent you all via text on Sunday as well too. I went back up to see how Tolman Park to see how the federal effort was coming, and of course by Monday morning they had it 100% contained. But what I wanted to note there is that when I up to Tolman Park the first time is I saw 3 trucks from the Lake Tahoe Fire District sitting there, and I went over and talked to them. I said, "You drive in from Tahoe today?" And they said, "We drove in from Tahoe, but not today. We drove down from Idaho. We were out fighting a fire up there, and they sent us down here." So, so from a federal effort, they brought them in from all over too, and they were one of 2 crews that were left on the mountain on Sunday afternoon. So it was quite an effort, and that's some of what I experienced that day and a couple days after, and I know that you all have stories as well too, and I thank you all as well. So unless you have any further questions for me, that's what I had on my report.
Mayor, as a suggestion, I was talking, this was, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the morning when we were standing around with Brent, that once we have the final after action, now that we're 100% contained, I would like to send a letter to all agencies that were involved. It was really impressive just going through, just looking at the police and fire response and making sure they understand that we noted, even if it was 1 or 2 highway patrol officers, we saw them. We knew that they were there.
Yes, yes, thank you for sure. Anything else? Great. Let's go then to the city manager's report. Brant?
Hey, thanks, Mr. Mayor. You discussed a lot of the fire. I'm not quite sure I'm going to go into any more of it, other than it was, yes, it was well collaborative effort. They did a great job. It was incredible to witness that. One thing I did observe that I'll share is just the dedication of all our public safety professionals who, Chief Bassett drove back from Bear Lake early in the morning, and even though it was mostly contained, his deputies did a great job managing it. He drove back. The LT Edwards from Bountiful, Lieutenant Edwards, was going to skip out on his Tuacahn trip because it was, you know, it was Labor Day weekend. So a bunch of them were missing some vacations, and I told Chief Child that no way am I going to let you miss your trip to Canada. But he kind of thought I should stay. He was planning on how to let Lou Ant drive all the way up to Canada, and I'm like, nah. Anyway, it was just the dedication is just incredible. So that was neat to witness on a more personal level than the professional level. More professional level, they're willing to sacrifice their personal, and you got to let them have that, especially public safety employees.
And there's items of little things taking place all over. When I was at Dairy Queen yesterday, I offered to buy this family lunch, and they said, no, your Centerville Dairy Queen gave us a $50 gift certificate.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Incredible.
So our businesses were helping out too.
Wonderful. Good to hear. So I don't, 9/11 Memorial, I know we had talked about that, tight schedule. Councilmember Ince and had emailed Chief Bassett, and Chief Bassett did reply back to me as well through text, letting us know there will not be anything at this fire station. Just tight schedule. You can't interrupt that. There'll be a moment of silence at the events during the week, but nothing, no 9/11 celebration. But I bet going forward there'll be something at that fire station. So just want to let you know about that. Christmas celebration. I had emailed you December 10th as the date. It is now December 4th. I'm sorry to change that on you, but December 10th was a conflict. And so we need to, December 4th. So that's going to be a tight week. December 2nd is Festival of Lights. Is that what we have? Is that the celebration? December 3rd, we have our city council meeting. December 4th will be the Christmas celebration, the employee party.
So December 4th is the Christmas party?
Correct. So when Chief Child returns from his vacation, we will get together and discuss a debrief. We want to have a debrief as staff one, but I'd like to debrief with council. In fact, propose that we put it on the September 17th agenda item so we can have a discussion about. So hold on to your thoughts. Don't forget, the best debrief is the day after, not two and a half weeks after. But so jot down your notes if you have some other thoughts you'd like to share besides what you shared here. But I'd like to invite Chief Child to come to the next meeting and talk about it a little bit more. And the other item I have is fire chiefs meeting. So there's an interesting dynamic here in the county where the sheriff's deputies are actually the paramedics, and that's weird. When they respond to a call, are they there to deal with the domestic abuse, or are they there to help the injured person? It's really kind of a conundrum that they're in. So there's actually a movement going on with the fire departments and working with the sheriff's office and trying to see if there's a way to transition the paramedic services to the fire departments. It's just going to be challenging because we have the tax levy for public safety for that ambulance. We have a whole bunch of other stuff. So just give you a heads up, at the fire chief level, city managers, we're all meeting to figure out a plan. With that plan, will be presented, on a more higher level. But first we got to see if it's even possible to make that transition. But we have a great sheriff here who's open to the idea. So we're just exploring the idea. So just want to give you a heads up on that. The other challenge, of course, is that we only briefly discussed, and I understand it's being discussed here in Davis County, is there's 3 different dispatch centers in the county, which is creating some challenges, particularly with the ambulances, because they don't communicate. We don't know exactly where ambulances are to respond to any certain incidents. Not like with the CAD system, with the police department, you know where a unit is, and you can say, hey, unit, can you go out there, regardless of what agency you're with. It's not the same with paramedics, and so that's creating some issues. So there's some conversation with the dispatch centers. Not really involves us, but it does involve us on the back end. So just want to give you a heads up. Those conversations are occurring. And that's all I have at this time, unless you have questions for me.
When is the volunteer dinner?
Is that date I gave you before? I believe it is September 16th. So, no, it was the same night as our city council meeting, right? So that was the 16th, or no?
We'll move to
Let me pull it up.
I have it as
October 7th is what I have.
good to know.
We,
It was supposed to be the 16th, and it was moved to October 7th.
You might be thinking about the youth council.
The youth council, that's on.
We wanted on a council night.
volunteer dinner is October 7th, 6 to 8 p.m. So let me go over these real quick. So yes, our joint youth council, city council work session and dinner is Tuesday, September 17th at 5:15. Volunteer dinner October 7th, 6 to 8. Monday, October 7th, 6 to 8 p.m. And we have the mayor's lunch Tuesday, October 8th. Employee Christmas party it's December 4th. And I believe 6:30 is the general time that occurs. Is that good? Anything else? Great. Thank you very much for all your support and all you do.
I don't know of a need for closed session, so unless any further business, then I'll look for a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
City council's closed.
So Clark, I don't know if you saw the Pizza Pie Cafe or heard what they did. They brought in, 20 or 30 breakfast pizzas at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, would we need to